Hello, everyone, and welcome to my podcast, Grit Stories of Resilience. My guest today is my very good friend, Brad Hurley, whom I have known for a long time, the longtime co owner of the 42nd Street Oyster Bar and its president as well. The Oyster Bar is closing its doors after a 38-year-old run in its present form and location. Its success over the years as a wonderful place to go to relax, meet friends, and have unmatched seafood is just remarkable. All these years, though, have been primarily due to Brad Hurley, my guest today, who carried on the tradition of Thad Eure as making 42nd Street one of the very best places to be. If you had guests from out of town, this is where you wanted to take them. If it was just you and your family, then what could be better? Its iconic role as an outstanding seafood restaurant attracted people famous and not so famous from all over the country. So today's recording is just a couple of days before the doors close. And so I wanted to talk with Brad, and he was gracious enough to let me do this and let him tell the story of 42nd Street Oyster Bar. Brad, it's always good to see you. It's good to see you today.
Jim, great to see you too. And I've been looking forward to doing this with you, doing this podcast. So, um, what you didn't say was that you worked at 42nd Street Oyster Bar,
I
and
did.
you had quite a history at early on at 42nd Street as one of our famous customers. and you spent a lot of time there entertaining, and when you would knock off work on occasion, you would come over there and have a cocktail before you went home. And so that's the way we got to know each other. And then some things happened in your life, and you decided that it'd probably be a good idea if you could come there and get get some work and kind of get started back in the workforce again. So that was quite a thing that you did. I'll never forget it.
I remember, Brad, when I came to see you after all my screw ups years ago, which I did. I was standing there in the restaurant talking to you, and I was asking for a job, and you and John Vick, who was the other co-owner of the Oyster Bar, owned uh, the Border Cafe, the
Right?
Tex
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Tex Mex, and so you offered me a job as a to work there. And you asked me, said, "Do you want to be in the front of the house or the back of the house?" I didn't know really what that meant, but the front of the house meant seeing people and hosting and things like that. I said, "Oh my God, no, I can't do that. I'm not ready for that." He said, "Well, we'll make you a cook. Do you know how to cook?" I said, "No." "Have you ever cooked?" I said, "No." "Well, that's okay. We got a book." And I remember telling you, I said, "It better be a good book." So I did that for a while, but
You
by
know,
the
I
time
Jim, I had forgotten that you actually that's the first thing you did in the restaurant business. Is that the first thing that you did, or did you work as a host at 42nd Street before you
no,
went to
no,
Border Cafe?
no, I was not brave enough to work as a host anywhere at that point in my life. I was not. I still remember the day I told John Vick I was leaving. He said, "Okay, take 2 weeks." I said, "John, that's not the deal. The deal is my lawyers and my psychiatrists have told me I need to leave this afternoon." He said, "Okay." And that was all that. It was not real. I sort of went out the back door as opposed to the front door, but kind of thing. But it worked out okay. But I remember still coming. I've told this story on another podcast, Brad, when I came to see you and asked for a job, and I said, "I maybe make me a manager." And you started laughing. I said, "I don't think we can do that, Jim." And and then you said, "We'll make you a host." And that's where I met Christine. She was the manager at the time. And I became a host, and you told me I didn't have to wear a uniform if I wore a suit because I was so old looking. People might think I was important. They'd make all their complaints to me and not to them. but not to you.
We needed all the help we could get, Jim.
Oh, I know.
You were the man. You knew everybody in town. I mean,
Okay.
what a great representative we had at the front door for you to greet
Well,
folks. And
thank you.
you knew 50% of the people that came through the door, particularly during the week. Now we would get folks coming from, an hour's drive around Raleigh to come there and eat on Friday and Saturday nights. But during the weekdays, you knew so many people that came through the front door. So I think that was a good experience for us all to
It was good
have
for
you
me.
doing that.
It
Yeah,
was good
it
for
was.
me. It was good for me. It was a good way for me to see people again, is what that was. And of course, it's become a family tradition that everybody in my family has just about worked at 42nd Street. Jeff, who's now a doctor, worked there for a while. And then Stacy worked there for a while, went away to school, and she's come back and she's there tonight at the front as people come in. So she's been there for a while.
Stacy
So
is held in such high esteem there. She is irreplaceable. She
well,
just
thank you.
she knows her job backwards and forwards, and coordinates things at the front door with these crowds that we get there at 42nd Street. And you know, nobody's ever done that job like Stacy does it. She's
Well, thank
terrific.
you. Thanks. Well, tell me, going back, how did you come to be in the restaurant business, first of all, and then secondly, 42nd Street? How did that
Oh,
happen?
uh, well, it's almost like two stories because
Yeah,
there was the need to have a job is how I got started.
I
Um,
understand that.
so a buddy of mine talked me into going into the house painting business with him when we were young and students at East Carolina. And he said he would get the jobs. All I had to do was he would instruct me on what to do and how to do it because I wasn't a painter. So okay, let's do this. He said I've already prospected a job. So we were painting the exterior of a home that was probably 50 years old. It was two-story, and his name was George. And George said, "Okay, we'll meet at such and such time. We'll get started." So he had an extension ladder, and he said, "What you'll do is you'll start up top on this ladder. You start up the top of the house, and I'll be down here on the ground. I'll paint from the ground, and we'll meet somewhere up there." And thinking to myself, I don't know much about painting, but I believe that everybody that we should all start at the top and work our way down. Anyway, that's kind of the way it went. So I think we painted. We were painting our third house, which was our last. George, we ran out of work, Jim, and the house we were painting was two doors down from the Daryl's restaurant. And you may or may not know this, but what I found out about being in the painting business is when you knock off in the afternoon, a good painter will find the closest place to go drink a beer and have a couple. So that was a no-brainer. Two, two, uh, two buildings away was Daryl's in Greenville, North Carolina, and so my partner John Vick, he was managing that restaurant, and that's how I got to know John. And I knew that job, paint job on that house was coming to an end. And I told John, I said, we don't have any more houses to paint. I said, I don't know anything about the restaurant business, but I need to have an income. I need some work. Would you help me get started? I said, I'll do whatever you need me to do. You just teach me how to wash your dishes and I'll be there. So we did that. And John and his team, they taught me how to cook in the kitchen, which I didn't know anything about. Got started in that, did it for about 6 months, and uh, the founders of Daryl's, Charles Winston, Daryl Davis, and Thad Eure Jr., they were growing that business. So the restaurant, the Daryl's in Greenville, was the third Daryl's, and they had a fourth one under construction in Greensboro, North Carolina. And that restaurant, the first three seated about 180 people. And so they were going to outdo themselves and do a big one that seated 320. So here we go from 180 seat restaurants to the 320. So that's a big difference when you do that. And they opened up Greensboro with a huge fanfare and a very limited menu that we had in Daryl's, and that didn't work well for them. And it was just too many of the same items. Here's an example: steak and cheese sandwiches were a big hit at Daryl's, and the flat grill wouldn't stay hot because there was so many, because the grill was packed full of steak. So right. They said we needed to diversify our menu. They brought in a couple of salad bars, one for upstairs, one for downstairs, and I wasn't involved at that time, but they put two different size cuts of New York strips and two different size cuts of ribeyes, and away they went, and that became popular. People loved the salad bar, and they loved having the opportunity to get steaks at Daryl's. So I grew up. No, I worked 6 months in the kitchen, and then I got involved in their management training program, and just grew with that company. That was 19. I started in 1973, and worked with Daryl's. Charlie and Thad sold Daryl's to General Mills, and I worked for General Mills. They afforded us to grow really fast. So at one point we had 35 or 36 Daryl's. So that's what I did. Is I grew with that company, wound up being a area manager, then a regional manager, and that's what I was doing when General Mills put 3 restaurant groups up for sale, and Daryl's was one of them. We were not fortunate enough to be able to give them the kind of return on investment that they had hoped for. So our group was going to be directed by the Gilbert Robinson group, which had hula hands. And they were based in Kansas City, Kansas, Kansas City, Missouri. Part of Kansas City's in both states, I believe. So worked alongside those guys for a while. They made me an offer to stay on with them. Meanwhile, I was talking to Thad Eure Jr. I went to see him, and I said, he and my partner, John Vick, they had started out with a new concept of a hamburger place called Fat Daddy's. And, I asked Thad, I said, now you help my buddy John Vick get started in business in a partnership with you, and you guys are doing business. I would like to be in ownership, and I don't know how to do it, but if you would help me get started, I would love it. So we looked at several concepts. At that time, he told me about 42nd Street Oyster Bar, and he said that was the first place that he ever ate a meal outside of somebody's home when he was growing up.
Is that right?
Said, yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. So he said, I'm going to redo that. I don't know when I'm going to get ready to focus on it, but he said that's a possibility that we could do that together. And he drove me down to the intersection of West and Jones Street in downtown Raleigh. I'd never been to that part of town, and showed me what he was going to do. And that area, I'm thinking to myself, Thad's had a lot of success in the restaurant industry, but I don't see how this location is going to work for him. I think this is going to be a big mistake for him. So I didn't want to do that. And he didn't know when he was going to get ready to do it. But then he called me one day, and I was doing some traveling, looking at other restaurant concepts. And he said, my schedule's changed. I'm ready to focus on 42nd Street. Let's do that. And I thought, oh my goodness. But I didn't have any other opportunities that were going to be getting into business for myself or in a partnership. So I said, I better take advantage of this. So anyway, I worked with Mr. Eure and Mel Simpson, which was our third partner. Mel was a long-term general manager of the Angus Barn. And the three of us were going to do this oyster bar thing together. So we worked and did the planning for how big or how small do we make the restaurant, because the warehouse was about 19,000 square foot. And one of the biggest things about having a building that big, we knew we didn't need all that space. Where do we carve out the restaurant, and what part of that building is it going to be in? How many square foot do we devote to kitchen, to dining room, to an office? So we spent a lot of time working on those ideas, and we finally carved out 12,000 of the 19,000 square foot of the building to build the dining room, the kitchen, and dish area, and we had a little office back behind the wall of the main bar. So that's how we got started. And I remember we were scheduled. We were hoping to open up sometime in October 1987, and we settled in to start hiring people to staff the restaurant the day after Labor Day in 1987. And so we did that for a couple of weeks, and we already had our phone system in the restaurant. We had 3 incoming, outgoing lines. And after we had been there hiring for a couple of weeks, the phone started ringing like crazy, because the media was writing some articles about Mr. Eure bringing back the old 42nd Street Oyster Bar that had started in 1931. And people were starting to get excited about it. And with the phone ringing as it was, that's when I figured out that we are going to get busy when we open up, which that happened, Jim. And thank goodness the dining out public in Raleigh and the surrounding area were very forgiving in the beginning, because we had never been involved in the seafood business, let alone trying to serve oysters on a large scale. And there were not many people that had experience with oysters, clams, serving in a seafood restaurant. And so there was a big learning curve for just about everybody that was on staff. Anyway, we kind of figured it out. The learning curve on how to buy quality seafood was a big deal too. So anyway, Chef Mark Edelbaum, our first chef, he had quite a bit of experience. He was a really talented guy who went to school at Culinary Institute of America in New York. He had the ability to take some good foods and marry them together and make a great dish. He was very talented at doing specialty items. And one of his fortes was being able to coordinate in a very busy environment, coordinate and expedite the food and get it out in a timely fashion. He was, and that is a real talent. And we knew that was what we needed because of the number of seats that we had. We had a large restaurant. We tablecloth 240 seats, and we had 70 seats committed to an oyster bar, and then we had another um, 60 or 70 seats at the bar and lounge area. So we had a lot of seats, and we needed somebody like Mark Edelbaum that could do a great job expediting and getting the food out. But Mark's learning curve on how to buy quality seafood, he didn't have that much experience. He knew more than the rest of us. So anyway, that was a learning curve was straight uphill on how to buy seafood. But
Did he
that's the way that the oyster bar came about. Thad Eure Jr.'s idea to do, and I was lucky enough to be what Thad would introduce me to his friends from time to time, and he would introduce me as his key carrying partner, and that's what I was. It was his concept. He knew what he wanted to accomplish with the design and decorating that restaurant. Anyway, I think that takes us from how I got started, how I was able to, I was in friendly territory the whole way because I was working with the same group. I've been lucky. The only application that I ever filled out in my life was a application that my partner John Vick gave me to fill out to come to work at Daryl's in 1973. So I've been very fortunate. Yeah. So.
That's pretty. And you and John Vick have sort of been the co-owners of 42nd Street since Thad sadly passed away and his wife passed away some years ago.
You're right. So I think it was 1985. Thad and John opened up the first hamburger place out on Highway 70. Fat Daddy's, the first one. Then they did another one in North Raleigh, near right off of Falls in the Neuse, and then they opened up their third restaurant the same month that we opened up 42nd Street, which was October '87. They opened up the third one in Fayetteville. So yeah, they did a great job with the Fat Daddies, and then Thad found out. So we opened up the third Fat Daddies. John and Thad did in October '87, 42nd Street, October '87, and then 6 months later, Thad found out that he had pancreatic cancer, and he did everything he could to try and whip it, but the cancer won out, and we lost him. About 13 months after we opened up 42nd Street. I think he passed away like mid-November 1988. And before he passed away, we had two companies. We had Fat Daddy's Inc. and we had the 42nd Street Oyster Bar. And Thad said, well, he thought it would be a good idea if we merged those two companies together. And that would give us a very healthy and profitable company. So that's what we did. And so John and I, here we are working together again. And we've always had a great relationship. And we've had a lot of fun doing everything that we've done in the restaurant business. So we've had a good time. And when Thad passed away, of course, he and his wife Alice Eure were the primary stockholders in our company. And Ms. Eure told John and myself, she said, Thad's idea of having a good day was creating a new business. She said, that is not my idea of having a good day. Said, you guys, she said, I'll be glad to help you all I can, but I want out. As soon as you guys can find a partner or a lending group that will take my share of the business out, then I would be happy to do that. And we were able to do that a few years later. Um, we found a bank that would roll the dice with us. And of course, we were having some success at Fat Daddy's and 42nd Street. So we're able to buy Ms. Eure's, buy her portion of the stock out of the business, I believe, around 1990. And Thad had passed away, a couple of years after Thad had passed away. And so I think that we had a 10-year plan, and we got a little bit ahead of the curve. And I think by the late 90s, we had been able to purchase the majority, Ms. Eure's stock in the business. So John and I were the primary stockholders at that point of Fat Daddy's and the 42nd Street Oyster Bar. So that was quite a feat for us. As we first started talking to banks, nobody wanted us, and we finally got found a bank where they said, for this rate, we'll loan you the money to buy your estate out of the business and out of their portion of the business. And so we had some big rates that we were paying on that borrowed money. So
I bet. I bet.
it was not easy, but we just kind of kept our head down and worked hard, and were able to find really great people like yourself to help us run the business, and we were able to pay the debts off and become debt free, probably, Jim, by 2000.
That is absolutely a remarkable story. And I think that what's so fascinating about having you on today, I mean, everybody knows that they like to go to the 42nd Street and have oysters or seafood. Or they think it's a great looking building, all of that. They do not know the story of how it came to be, in its present form. And I just think that's just a remarkable story. You and John have just done something unbelievable, it seems to me, over the years.
Well,
So,
thanks for saying that. We've had a great time, and we've only had 3 chefs over the 30 plus years that we've been operating. I like telling
I,
that.
I
I like
love
saying
Mark
that.
Ellerbaum. I just loved Mark Ellerbaum. He was there when I was there.
Right. Okay. Okay.
And he and we had a love relationship. It was funny. He just thought it was cool that I was there. But about once every 3 or 4 days I'd do something stupid, and he'd come out, and anybody else he would have yelled out unbelievably. He'd look at me and he'd just sigh and say, "Well, it's a good learning experience." He'd walk off. It was
he,
great.
well, you're talking about your relationship with Mark Edelbaum.
Yeah.
I think everybody had that love hate relationship with Mark. He was just that
Yeah, he
kind of
did.
guy.
He
Was
was.
he if he was not if he was not in a good mood, everybody knew it. And
It's like if mama ain't happy, nobody's happy. That's
that's
right.
right. Yeah. So he if he was in a good mood, everybody was happy.
That's right. That's right. I understand. I understand.
But he was a talented guy, and he had a lot of talent. Jim, we searched Mel Simpson, Thad Eure Jr. and I. We spent a lot of time trying to find a chef that we thought was going to be the best fit for what we were doing, and hands down, Mark was the leader of the pack.
Mark told me one time, he said when Mr. Eure was interviewing him for the position, he said something like, this is a paraphrase. He says, "Well, why should I hire you?" Mark finally said, "They said, because I can get seafood out in the plates in a hurry and get it
Yeah.
out quickly and get it done right." And that was the clincher to Thad Eure. That was what he was looking for.
Well, yeah, that was exactly it. And like I said, we interviewed a lot of talented chefs, but not many had the experience that Mark had in expediting the food in a timely manner, and he was creative with foods as well as having the forte of expediting food. And he trained a lot of really, I mean, people, we just weren't able to hire that many people that were that talented in the kitchen. So Mark trained them, and he was a good trainer too. He could train people to get the job done. He brought a fellow with him, and I don't know if you worked there when Chester Witt. He had worked in Colorado with Chester
Not
Witt.
sure. Yeah.
Okay, so Chester was his sous chef. We started out with just Chef Edelbaum and Chester as the assistant chef, and but Mark wanted to bring somebody that he could depend on, that he had worked with, that he trusted to have his back when he needed him there. And Chester was the guy. But talking about only working with 3 chefs at 42nd Street over 30 plus years, Edelbaum being the first, he trained David Greenwell, our second chef.
Yes, I know David.
Yeah, so David was in school at NC State, and David was on the opening team, and he had experience in a steakhouse in Salisbury, and he knew how to work the broiler and cook steaks. Mark trained him, and David had a high respect for Mark's abilities. And he, so when David graduated from business school at NC State, we offered him an assistant chef position. He took it and was Mark's number one support guy at that time. Chester had already left to do something else. And so when Mark decided to go into business with another partner out in Nightdale, David Greenwell was promoted to be our executive chef, and he did a great job too. He was really good with putting good foods together and making them better. He had a lot of talent. He was creative, and he had learned Mark's expertise in expediting food in a timely fashion. So he was a perfect fit. One of the nicest people you ever want to meet.
Yeah.
Yeah, just a great guy. He eventually went into business for himself in Wake Forest.
Right.
Bought the cafeteria up there and still is doing that today. And we had gotten into catering business pretty big by the time Mark Edelbaum had left us, and David came aboard, and David took on a lot of that responsibility. And so our third chef and current chef, Joe Rohr, was an understudy of David Greenwell, and very, very smart, talented guy, Joe Rohr. So we've been very fortunate. Just had some good people there to help run the restaurant. And that is not an easy job, as you well know. Being a chef in a high volume restaurant, it's
No.
it's very stressful. It can be if you don't have a good team, and that's part of their goal is to surround themselves with people that understand what they want from them. And we've been lucky.
I tell people all the time that the stress of being a trial lawyer is nothing compared to working in the food industry as a waiter or as a cook or a chef. Ain't nothing as tough as getting food to the table in a timely manner that people like. There's just nothing like that for pressure, I don't think.
I've never heard you say that before, Jim, but
It's true. It's so true.
Not ever having been an attorney, I would have had no idea.
Uh, oh my God. I mean, I could be cross-examining somebody or doing something else or waiting for a jury. That's nothing. It's the stress of that is nothing is having a getting triple set one night, with a bunch of young people. Oh God. And separate checks. My God.
that's too
it
funny.
was it was tough. It was so tough. Oh God.
Oh, that's funny. That is
It's
so funny.
so I want to ask you this. Looking back, how Brad, the 42nd Street is made, it's been profitable. It's been all of that. The sheets would look good. What I really am curious about, if I had to ask you, if I was the Lord asking you this question, this is the question I would want to know. How did you take Thad Eure's concept and that building and put the booths in, the seats in, and the food in, and all that, and the crowds came, but you sustained it over time. It wasn't just a one-off. It was year after year after year. On Thursday nights, people would be out the door. They had police there making sure that people got in the right way, and all of this stuff. And how did what? How did you make the oyster bar work? How did that?
Oh,
It
it,
became what
it,
it
it,
became.
Jim, that was simple on my end. Remember what I said that how Thad would introduce me to his childhood friends and friends that he had made in Raleigh. He knew everybody in Raleigh.
Yeah, he did. He
He
did.
did, and they liked him, and he liked them, and he would introduce me as his key carrying partner. So I had experience managing restaurants and supervising people that managed restaurants. So that was my forte was, and that's what I had been trained to do. Is so that came to me very easy because that was I was experienced at that. But the big factor for me in trying to make 42nd Street successful was fear of failure.
Mhm.
Uh, and I'll tell you something that'll motivate you is when you put your house up for collateral. If you don't do good, you're not profitable. Your house says bye bye to you. That's a
Mhm.
motivator. So I was highly motivated,
Right,
and
right.
so that separated me from the rest of the management team there, the rest of the staff there. I was able to surround myself with great people, as you well know. But I was highly motivated, and the fear of failure was a great motivator. So it would, you know, get 2 or 3 hours sleep a night a lot of times, and just had I was healthy, and I could do that kind of thing back then. But I reached back and pulled on some of the experiences that I had in the early days of restaurant management. We worked all kinds of hours early in my career, and one of the main reasons for that, Jim, is we being a restaurant manager when I got started in the early '70s and in the late '70s. It was not a very glamorous job, and people didn't until people started managing restaurants and making some reasonably good money and showing signs of having success. Um, people just it wasn't something that you wake up one morning and says, I think I'll be in restaurant management. That's what I'm going to do to be successful. And we couldn't find enough managers, hence all the hours that we worked. If we could have found more people interested in managing restaurants, we wouldn't have been working 90 hours a week.
Right, right.
So so I was able to borrow off of those experiences, and I was young, I was healthy, and just could go. And fear of failure is a great motivator.
Yeah, that's certainly true. How did you? I used to call it the fear of being embarrassed. You know,
Well,
uh,
that too.
you
You
know,
want to please when the customers come in. You know you're not going to please them all, and I'll tell you, from the time that a customer drives up into your parking lot at the restaurant to the time they come inside, they are greeted by someone. They're told when they're going to get seated, and then they get to the table. The table needs to be clean. The server needs to get there in a timely fashion. They need to be knowledgeable. Um, and then the chef and his team has to serve some good food. Um, I'm talking about there are so many places where when the customer comes that we can make a mistake or not be 100%. And we all know that, that happens from time to time, but we need to minimize the pieces where we make mistakes. So we always think of it like this, Jim, is we need to do more right than we do wrong, and then we got a chance to bring the customer back, because the whole thing is based on if we don't have the repeat customers, we're going out of business. And we
Right.
got plenty of competition. It's not like they don't, the dining out public has to come to your place. They got plenty of choices that they have to pass by to get to your place, to your business. So you better be ready.
That's
And,
right.
which we were. I mean,
That's right.
we had a lot of sharp people that worked there over the years because we had a great clientele, and so it was a great marriage.
Looking back at 42nd Street and your time there, and I know you spent so many hours of your life in that building. What are the best memories of that time to you as you look back?
See, uh, it brings tears to my eyes to see all the success that people have had that work with us.
That's
It,
true.
it, it chokes me up, and so proud of the
Good.
people that we've worked with. And sorry for getting emotional.
No, I think it's so real, Brad. I go ahead, but I don't want to
I
interrupt what
knew
you're
this was
saying.
going to happen, so I already planned my apology to you. But that's a big thing. It's huge, huge.
You know, I think I may have told you this over the phone the other day. I don't know, but looking back at my time, I'm basically known for two things, well, three things. One, I'll get this out of the way. I'm known for my screw up, but getting that off the table, I am known for either prosecuting Jeffrey McDonald or working at 42nd Street. Those are the things for which I am basically known.
Now you said three. What's the third one?
The third one is my screw up. I'm known for, you know, I'm known for those, and that's the truth, but I tell people all the time, there was a lawyer in Raleigh, he's passed away now, Bob Clay. He was this great trial lawyer, and he died about 4 or 5 years ago. He came to one of my programs one time, and he said to me, Jim, he said, of all the things you've done in your life, the best thing you've ever done was wait tables at 42nd Street. It's true. And Brad, here's the deal. As you well know, as you well know, that did not come easy to me. I
No, I
told
mean it was probably as difficult things you ever did in your life because of the timing. The timing you needed to do something, and it just turned out that's what it was, and it help you get healthy again.
yeah, but I also wasn't very good. At first I got better, but it took me a while. The learning curve for me was tough, but I got there. But I told people all the time, I said, well, I didn't know much about fine dining, but I did know how to entertain you and make
Well, your
people have a good time.
personality, that's
It worked.
you have a winning personality, and you were able to be yourself and carry that to your customers. And I think people understood that that hey, this guy is learning. And we've all been to restaurants where we said, that guy or that gal that's waiting on us doesn't have much experience, but his personality they're gonna be successful because they'll figure this thing out because they got a wonderful personality, and you had that.
Well, thank you. I will tell you, I was at dinner there, about a week ago, and Stacy specifically she put me in a booth, 114. I still remember the numbers. And she said, she sent this waitress to the table. And the waitress said she had hosted with Stacy. She said, I'm not the best. She reminded me of myself. She says, I don't know all the proper things sometimes, but I have a good time and I'll do whatever you want and I'll make you have a good time. And Stacy said, that's exactly why I wanted her to wait on you. And we wound up giving her an extra large tip just for being that way. And
Right.
so that's what works so many times in the restaurant business, I think. So
Well,
you still have really good help at the Oyster Bar even today.
yes,
It's,
we do. Coming through COVID was a real challenge, and we were challenged at 42nd Street to get back to the level of service that we wanted to have. Uh, but I think our management team did a great job in getting us there in a reasonable length of time because we were fortunate to be able to keep during COVID a lot of the back of the house people employed, whether it
right.
was takeout orders, but the front of the house people, they were targeted by two or three different industries that also needed a lot of staffing. And so we lost a lot of front of the house people. We had to bring on a number of people that didn't have experience in our restaurant. Uh, so our learning curve there for front of the house people after COVID was straight uphill, and it took a little while. And again, the dining out public in Raleigh has been very forgiving to let us kind of get on our feet after COVID. It's difficult. I don't care what industry you're in to be have your business shut down from doing what you do on a daily basis. Hopefully, for the better of everybody in our country, that's what happened. I was talking to a guy yesterday, uh, and this has to do with politics.
Right.
He had a restaurant near South Carolina during COVID, and the rules that we played by in the restaurant and food service industry in the state of North Carolina was much different than the rules and regulations that they were played by in South Carolina. So he has a restaurant near the border of South Carolina. Uh, no, I'm saying it wrong. He had a restaurant just inside of South Carolina, and a lot of North Carolina customers started going to that South Carolina restaurant because they were open and serving when we were shut down in North Carolina. So you got two different kinds of rules to play by in the
Right.
Carolinas. You know, it and quite simply, it came down to politics: who's doing right, who's doing wrong. You know, and I know everybody was trying to do the best they could, but two totally different sets of rules during COVID. Ours being in North Carolina more strenuous.
Right. 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 Um, in looking finally and just thinking about it, I know that the decision to close the Oyster Bar was tough, and but yet it may be that it was a thing that its time had come, I suppose. But at least you know what is remarkable to me, Brad. I've seen it over the last 3 weeks, and I know you have seen it and heard about it too. It has been unbelievable. People have come from everywhere. I was at somewhere yesterday, and she said, I want to go. Is it too late? I said, no, it's not too late, but you got to get there an hour early. and get in line, or it will be too late. But if you do, if you really want to go, you can still go. But the people have come back, and it's just amazing. They want to go for what you hear everybody say in line is, "I want to go one more time." It's a, it's just remarkable that it's just. I don't know any other restaurants that are like that. Frankly, I don't. Uh,
Well, Thad Eure Jr. accomplished a lot with the surroundings. The
right,
place has a feel to it. He was interested in putting some of the old things and some of the new things, combining them. Uh, and the big thing that one of the big things he wanted people to feel comfortable. He wanted people, and it came to pass that you might be in there in your blue jeans having dinner at a table beside of some people that were in tuxedos that were getting ready to go to a wedding or had just been to a wedding, uh, been to the senior prom. So we were able to serve people from all different walks of life. It's casual. You could come dressed up and feel comfortable, and you could wear your blue jeans and feel comfortable in all different dress in between. So he put that together. I think people were comfortable there. Little things that turned out to be big things, such as the license tags of
right,
politicians.
right.
So he took his dad's license. I mean, who else would have thought of this? Maybe he'd seen it somewhere else. I don't know. Maybe it
Right.
wasn't his idea, but it sure was. He brought it to the table there. And I think early on, he had a little place that had about 7 tags, license tags, and a caption under it saying who that person was and what their position was in state government. And so other politicians came in and saw that and said, you know what? Uh, I'd love to have my license plate up there, which meant they got their name up there too. Okay. So you have that. So he, uh, and all the pictures of Raleigh from yesteryear. Uh, it's amazing how many phone calls in the last 2 or 3 weeks that I've fielded. It's a responsibility that the I've taken off of the managers, and so I'm taking all the calls, all the emails about with people that want their great granddad's license tag. They would like to have that, or their granddaddy owned a cab company in Raleigh, and we have 3 pictures. We own two cab companies in Raleigh, and we have 3 pictures that they would love to have that have to do with his business. The Muriel, uh,
Yeah.
he included some of the new, some of the old. Uh, he included some of the people that worked there, the design of the place where if you sat at the bar, the kitchen was on a higher level and you could see the people preparing your food. You could see them from the knee down in the
Right.
kitchen preparing the food. So many things that he did that was quite remarkable. But he brought families together because of some of his ideas. Uh, and then Hunter Carell, our general manager, he uh, is the epitome of a host. He
Mm-hmm.
he loves doing what he does. He's good at it, and everybody knows Hunter.
Right.
So in the last 3 weeks, I can't imagine how many pictures he's taken with regular customers. He spends the rest of the management team has to support him because he doesn't have time to help them operationally for the most part, he has time to help get the restaurant ready and set it up. But when the customers come in, he has so many acquaintances through 42nd Street that he spends most of his time uh, talking, seeing old friends, and having his picture made. He's famous, and rightfully so. He's got a great personality, and people love it. People love it.
Do you think you're going to be there again before it closes?
Yes, I'm planning on being there Sunday night,
Good. I
and
understand as I
I plan on being there early, and I plan on helping Lexus. Fidel is the closing manager, and I plan on helping her close it down.
That's good. I think a lot of people are coming. Even Christine, your old manager and bartender extraordinaire, is coming in tomorrow, I think, from Colorado, just to be
Right,
there for the week
right.
for the weekend. Is there any questions that I've not asked you that you thought I should have asked you, or anything you want to say that we have not touched on?
Jim, I don't think so. This has been fun. I always enjoy your company, and I'm going to look forward to seeing you Sunday night.
You will.
And no, I can't think of anything, Jim. I've enjoyed being with you this morning, and it's been great fun.
Brad, thank you so much. I really do appreciate it. And thanks to Joe for allowing you to take an hour away from her this morning to do this podcast.
Well, you're very
So,
kind. Joe will appreciate you saying that.
Joe's one of my favorite people in the whole world. The last story I will tell is a good one to end on. I think I may be working there. I may have not be working. I don't remember where I was or not, but I was probably off. And you and a bunch of people are sitting out in the dining room one night. And Joe is there, and she said, "Jim, can you get me a glass of wine?" Sure. So, I go to that little room off the dining room to get uh, her a glass of wine. And then she says, "Jim, why don't you just go get us the bottle and sit down and have a drink with us?" Well, okay. So I walked in there and had the bottle and came back and said, "Oh my God, I hope Brad doesn't know about this." She said, "Jim, Brad and I are married. Don't worry about it."
So Joe was rewarding you for your efforts.
That's right. That's right. You take care. Have a great weekend, and I hope to see you Sunday night. And thanks again so much for doing this today.
Great fun, Jim. Always good to be with you, and look forward to seeing you Sunday night.
Thanks. And
Thank you.
thank you to everybody else for listening or watching. You can see this on YouTube. You can see it on Spotify. You can hear it on Apple. Thanks so much.